Hey everybody, and welcome to Truck King. So right beside me is my 2019 2500 Ram, and I've been letting you know about my ownership experience for the last 3 years. Well, I just got back from an 11,000 kilometer trip through the southern states hauling my brand new fifth wheel, and I'm going to tell you all about that right now. All right, so the big story this winter has been the weight of my new trailer. 35-foot long, grand design, 12,500 pounds empty, 15,000 pounds GVWR, and a published pin weight of around 2,350 pounds. So when I originally got this trailer, I had a lot of people talk to me and say it's overweight. And let's get into that right now because I've dealt with it, but we got to deal with it again. According to payload, yes, it's overweight. However, I went to the next step, which is I said, let me look at my gross axle weight ratings. And according to that, no, I wasn't overweight. So we actually hooked up this trailer, took it to a CAT scale, measured it out, drive axle, steering axle, total weight on the unit. All the numbers worked. Payload? No, I was definitely over my payload. So there's a lot of argument about payload, but this is my own personal opinion. This is not the factory. This is not MTO. I'm telling you that if the weight works with the tires and the axles, that's what you should concern yourself with. And I'm standing here today saying I did 11,000 kilometers with that weight on this truck, okay? All the way down to Arizona, back out through Texas, all the way home in all kinds of weather, all kinds of conditions. And here I am, I'm back in Ontario, and I'm in one piece. So is my truck, so is my trailer. Now, here's the big thing, because I'm not gonna lie. Was it a good drive? Hell no. And that's actually what we gotta get into right now. The truck was handling the weight, however, at speed, at highway speed, I was getting a lot of buffeting. I was getting, in particular, a lot of side-to-side motion. Now, part of that I put off to the fact that it's 13'5", this trailer, and when I was getting crosswinds, it would start to push. So it would get into this rhythm, and I would have to change speed, steer into it, do something to break this motion because I was going back and forth like this. Now what that means is that I'm driving every minute of every hour. There was no, staring off into the distance and everything was just fine. I was feeling the truck and the trailer and I had to constantly change things. Road surface would affect me. Transport trucks going by, their vacuum would affect me. It was all transmitting back to the truck because, yeah, you know what? It handled it, but we definitely were near the edges of capacity. And it has to also be stated that this Ram 2500 has leaf spring, or pardon me, it has coil spring rear suspension. I'm thinking leaf spring. But that's on the 3500, and I think there's a reason for that too, because the springs, they do rebound, but they rebound differently than a leaf. And what I think I was getting this side-to-side rebound, which was having a hard time evening out. So after all these hours, about 100 hours behind the wheel in total, I came home and I told my wife, yeah, you know what? I think I'm probably going to sell this truck and get into a 3500 just for the increased capacity and the leaf spring suspension. So there's these two things. I will stand here all day and say I was right when it came to doing the math in terms of what my trailer weighed and whether the truck could handle it. But I was totally wrong when it came to how is it going to drive and, am I going to lose any more hair than I already have? So just one more chapter to add to the weight story, because when you have a trailer of any kind, you've also got cargo. You've got your living gear and everything else, and where you put that in the trailer really matters. So I wanted to get some weight off of my rear axle, so rather than storing everything ahead of the trailer axles in the belly, I moved a lot of things into the body of the trailer, right to the back, behind the rear axle. So I was actually able to spring 200 pounds off of the drive axle, and that also made somewhat of an improvement in towing. So always keep in mind that you've got certain options on where you put your weight as to how it's going to react when you're towing. Hey everybody, it's Howard at Truck King. Listen, about 2 years ago, I was gifted a set of these Giddy Up straps, and they've been in my truck ever since, helping my wife, my grandkids, even my mom get in and out. Well, just recently, we came into a supply of these, and we now want to sell them to you. So all you got to do is reach out to us at hey@truckking.ca. Steve will throw that up here. Tell us where you are, what kind of truck you have, how many units you want. We'll get back to you with a price, including postage. Listen, we believe in this product, and we believe you're gonna like it too. So a couple of other observations. If you've been watching the series, you know that I've done an entire video on the Kurt Crosswing hitch. This is the one that they sent me. I use this there and back. I'm actually very pleased with it. And one of the things that it did for me is it gave me 8.5 inches of clearance behind the axle. Now, from a weight perspective, that probably was not a good thing. However, from a turning radius perspective, that was a good thing because I did not want to use a slider. However, again, live and learn. And the next truck will have an 8-foot bed. I'm tired of this, you know, inch by inch on a 6'4" bed. If you go with the 8-foot bed, you can use a standard fifth wheel hitch setup, which is definitely going to distribute the weight better, and I won't have that problem in terms of clearance. So the only real kind of problem I had on the road didn't have to do with the weight, but it did have to do with the clearance. So Steve will throw the clip up. We ran this truck in tight circles, but on flat ground. Problem being, when I was down in New Mexico one night, is I got into a situation where I didn't want to back up, so instead I cut really too tight, but I was on a driveway coming into a parking lot, and of course that changed the angle of trailer to truck, and you can probably just see here where the trailer impacted the roof. And I wish I could say that that's the only thing that happened, but that glass blew out. So that was my $1,000 mistake down in New Mexico. Now, the good news is I was heading to Yuma, where there are 50,000 RVers who show up every winter. So when I called the local glass shop, expecting the guy to tell me that it would take weeks to get a new back window, he said I can put it in an hour. So I was glad to get it replaced, but like I say, that was a $1,000 mistake, and one you don't want to make. But that's the problem when you're counting in inches your clearance, and in my case, I missed the fact that I was not on even terrain. Here's some other bullet points from our trip. I now have 60,000 kilometers on the truck. The engine, as far as this Cummins is concerned, has never missed a beat. Transmission works fine. I was very happy with the engine braking. During the trip, it was on every day. It's nice to be able to sort of just back off your accelerator and not have to worry about going to the brakes, because it was just aggressive enough to keep everything in check when I needed to slow down like that. Now, as far as fuel economy is concerned, it's more than it was the year before because, of course, the trailer weighs more, but I figure I was somewhere around 23.5 liters per 100 as my average, and Steve will throw up the MPG here. So I could be down to 22. I did hit sometimes up to 25 when we were getting up and over the Continental Divide, which is a lot higher than you think it is, over 7,000 feet. Now, the speed I was doing, though, this time around, in particular because of this rocking motion I was getting, 65 miles an hour seemed to be the sweet spot. So I would pretty much dial it in at 65 miles an hour, which is 105 kilometers an hour, and that's about it. Now, it worked for me, except in West Texas. where the speed limit is 80 miles an hour. And I felt like I was standing still. But hell, that's one of the things you got to do. I wouldn't get that high anyway. You got to check your speed ratings on your tires. Now here's something that came up that was interesting, because of course I'm using the Toyo Open Country AT3s. These went on when the truck had about 10,000 kilometers. They work really good. My door jamb sticker says that my tires should be aired up to 65 PSI. But of course that was the OEM tires. These tires though are rated at 80 PSI cold. And it wasn't until I got down to Arizona that I realized that the last time I had it in the shop, nobody bothered to look at the tire. They just went off of the door. So in actual fact, I was running somewhat underinflated. So from there, 1,000 miles back to Texas, that was the next leg that we did. Things improved considerably when I got the right pressure into those rear tires, and it stiffened things up. So just something to keep in mind, that if you swap out tires, sometimes you're also swapping out pressure. So as I mentioned, on that long drive home, I pretty much decided that this truck, and I love this truck, is going to go bye-bye, and I'm going to buy a new truck. It's going to be a 3500. It's going to have an 8-foot bed, but that's about as far as I've gotten at the moment. So I'm in conversations with all the manufacturers. I'm not particularly brand loyal. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind getting into something else just so I can bring that experience to you guys, my viewers. So you know what? Right now, tell me, what would you buy brand new if you had a chance to get into a new HD today? And I'd love to hear your opinions. And in the meantime, we will start that process, and I will let you guys know how that goes all the way along, from the ordering process to the waiting to the dealer, etc., etc. So again, that's it for this one, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad to be back in Ontario. It's starting to finally warm up a little bit, but listen, we had a great time down in Arizona and Texas, and I just want to give a big shout out to everybody we met along the way. Everybody was wonderful, and I'm looking forward to heading south again next year. So that's it. Please go below, hit like, hit subscribe, and become a member of our channel, and soon enough, we'll start talking about more trucks right here at Truck.